not only the new missiles, but it got a buff in the fly model as well. Well, let's take a look. Hello guys, once again, it's Matt, and today we have another video with the Mirage 2000-5F in the dev server. And as you know, the main thing about this aircraft is that it's one of the most powerful aircraft in the game right now because of the 6 mechas they can actually take. But not only because of that, it actually got a different fly model, or a change in fly model. So let me create an empty thing over here. We're gonna go to a test flight and talk about all the changes. Let me do minimal fuel just to test it out a little bit. So here we are taking off. The first thing why we get a little bit of speed is the elevator's effective speed was raised from 650 kilometers per hour to 800. What this means is that even at like 700 and something, it will still pull very, very good. Like, look at this. I mean, I was at 500 there, but you know what I mean. It will pull a little bit more, or in a sense that it will compress less than it was before. And you can feel it. It is pulling above 600 a lot more, and it feels like, not a lot more, but it's pulling more, you know. It feels like it is turning a little bit more, especially above the 650 kilometers per hour. So less compression is always a good thing for an aircraft such as this. It always suffered a little bit from situations where it could be compressed, so this actually helps a lot. There were some minor changes to stuff like arm shifts and other stuff from the coefficient of lift and all sorts of stuff like that. In a general sense, they're very minor changes, but in a general sense, you will be able to have a less steep curve of like the amount of lift and etc. and drag and everything that this aircraft will be able to actually do. So you should expect a lot more of a linear kind of turning capability in all sorts of speeds, you know, especially in the high, like medium to high speeds. So it is, I gotta say, it is a lot more predictable in a turn. That's the word probably in all of these situations. And once you start to turn, I mean, look at this, it turns very well. One of the best dogfighters in the game, now probably the best, to be honest. I have to do a video about it against the Gripen to check it out, and Su-27s and stuff, but in general it is pretty good. There was some other changes, like for example more lift after you get a stall, depending on the situation. So if you actually stall the aircraft, you will be able to actually produce a little bit more lift, you know, being able to control the nose a little bit more. You can feel that the nose itself is a little bit less heavy, you know, but it's minor changes, you know. It's difficult to say that you can feel everything because of course it's always something very like minor, but you can see that the nose is a lot easier to, you know, move around when you are kind of stalling out, right? So just remember that the aircraft is a little bit more controllable when stalling in certain situations, okay? There was some weird decreases and increases in the amount of instantaneous turns as well, depending on the speed. So if you are flying, for example, at Mach 0.1 to 0.3, which is a very low Mach, like it's really, really slow, it will actually turn a little bit less at the same time. But the thing is that at between Mach 0.3 and 0.5, which is very slow, I gotta say, it will be able to pull a little bit more, okay? So in the very slow positions, when you are very, very slow, like below Mach 0.3, which is very, very slow, you should be a little bit worse, but a little bit better above that. So for example, here we are at Mach 0.4, 0.3. So now it is a little bit better at these speeds, but if you go down to 0.3, for example, now, yeah, even in a continuous turn, 0.29, like for example in this situation, it would start to slightly be turning less than before, okay, than the live server, I mean. And now you will be able to actually stall it out in a higher speed, which means that the airspeed that you are in, you need to be careful because it will stall out a little bit quicker, although you will be able to control the actual aircraft a little bit better when it's stalling. That's kind of what they're saying here. And of course, there is something that I need to talk about, which is basically overall there were many changes to pitch and positive critical AOA angles and stuff. At the end of the day, they say that overall, it will result in a slight more instantaneous turn, you know, a slightly more rapid pull, you know, but a lower retention and slightly worse pull at high speed. So it means that in the lower airspeeds, you'll be like in general, like not lower airspeeds, but in general, you'll be able to actually pull a lot more instantaneously. But once you get really quickly, it will be able to pull a little bit less, and it will have less retention, obviously, because it is pulling a little bit more, right? So at the end of the day, it is a buff in many instances. Overall, I think it's still a buff because you can pull a little bit more. And retention, worse retention just means that you can choose when to bleed energy or not. So it's actually a good thing, you know. Not having too much retention can be good and bad depending on the pilot. So if you use this correctly, it can actually be a good thing. But yeah, guys, basically this is it. We'll be able to turn generally a little bit more, and overall compressing a little bit more less, you know. And at the higher airspeeds, it will be turning a little bit less, but slightly only, and with a little bit of a lower retention of speed as well, which is something to be expected when an aircraft turns a little bit more, right? So these are what I could actually, you know, bring from the actual post. I will leave the post from Flame Reddit that I will leave in the description that he posted, working with Oshida and Zabi and stuff apparently. So yeah, very, very interesting flight model changes to the Mirage, and an already amazing aircraft with the Mikas just became even better, in my opinion at least, especially with the extra weight that you will take with these missiles. It's needed to take a little bit more of action when dogfighting, because if not, sometimes you would need to just jettison the weapons. So yeah, guys, the new Mirage is here. It's a new era for the French Air Force. And yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what do you expect about the Mirage 2000. Bye, guys. See ya.